While Raccoon City burned, Umbrella was watching. Battle data was already being collected in order to perfect their next nightmare on Rockfort Island. But the creatures found here weren't just the result of another chance outbreak. Instead, they were being improved for combat through clinical precision inside the island's military training center. Here, Umbrella's paramilitary groups like the USS and UBCS could sharpen their skills against live subjects, while the researchers would then make deadly improvements to the creatures' designs, creating the deadliest soldiers and monsters alike. A brutal refinement of everything that they had learned so far. But even the most elite soldiers weren't prepared for the Ashford family's personal creations. From grotesque horrors like the Bandersnatch to the divine creations of T. Veronica, this is the deranged lore behind Code Veronica's monsters and the history of the extreme brutality beneath Rockfort Island.
I feel like this year may be special.
Albert Wesker descends on Rockfort Island, leading the elite HCF unit on a high-stakes mission to secure a sample of the T. Veronica virus. While the HCF's airstrikes devastate Umbrella forces, it quickly becomes apparent to the station prison guards that the invading soldiers are only one part of the problem. The crumbling infrastructure triggered a total containment failure, releasing the T-virus and battle-tested B.O.W.s across the island. Shortly after the initial attacks, Claire Redfield is freed from her cell. As she wanders into the nearby cemetery, she encounters the first creatures of Code Veronica, the graveyard zombies. These prisoners were quickly buried alive after being mistakenly declared dead from T-virus infection. Now, fueled by the virus seeping into the soil with the rain, they're clawing their way back to the surface through the loose soil to test Claire's knife skills. Escaping the graveyard only leads Claire to cross paths with more familiar creatures. The T-virus outbreak on the island has caused similar mutations as those found in Raccoon City, only this time, things are much more lethal. For example, these zombie dogs behave differently than the Cerberus or other infected animals. They will ignore the sound of gunfire, choosing instead to wait until their prey is within striking distance before making their presence known. These zombie dogs were likely part of the island's security measures, as they seem to be trained to latch onto their victims' arms. Plus, they are considerably tougher than the previous iterations, requiring much more handgun ammo for Claire to put down for good. As Claire pushes toward the palace, she encounters even more infected wildlife. These erratic creatures were exposed to the T-virus leaking into the island's ecosystem, but unlike the giant variants seen in Resident Evil 0, they show no signs of increased size. Instead, these bats have developed a heightened awareness and seem to attack in swarms. They are highly sensitive to light and noise, often overwhelming Claire in tight corridors. However, she can use this sensitivity to her advantage. A simple flick of her lighter is enough to keep the swarm at bay, allowing her to conserve precious ammo for the real horrors that await her next. As she proceeds to the courtyard of the military training center, Claire is stopped in her tracks as the ground begins to tremble. Deep beneath the surface lies one of Umbrella's more experimental prototypes, the Gulp Worm, a biological weapon created by manipulating worm DNA with the T-virus. It lies dormant underground until it smells its prey approaching, and then it comes rushing out of the ground to attack. Its enormous size and powerful digestive organs allow it to swallow an adult human whole. Umbrella had been using this prototype as a practice opponent for the Rockfort Island's anti-B.O.W. squad trainees. Luckily for Claire, she manages to escape. You can choose to fight the worm here if you want, but you won't get a reward for doing so until facing this monstrosity as Chris. So for now, it's best to save your ammo for the real threat that waits inside the training center. As Claire works her way through the facility, she begins to confront its deadliest secrets. The first extreme threat that she encounters is another Umbrella prototype, this time based on the Tyrant. Finding test subjects with the rare genetic compatibility required for the Tyrant program was growing more and more difficult for Umbrella. Plus, the Tyrants themselves were very expensive to develop. Enter the Bandersnatch, a cost-effective solution designed to be mass-produced, with a focus on adaptability over sheer destructive power. These B.O.W.s were sent to the military training center to gather combat data and facilitate live-fire exercises for Umbrella's private military forces. While it is fun to call this a Timu Tyrant, the Bandersnatch is not a creature to be taken lightly. Unlike the Tyrant, the Bandersnatch possesses a grotesque, exposed form that does not bother to mimic anything close to human. Its lower body is atrophied, making it difficult to walk, and it lacks a left arm. But again, don't be fooled by its shortcomings. Its extendable right arm more than compensates for them. It can use its right arm to quickly move across a room or scale a flight of stairs, allowing it to track its targets with startling speed and precision. Its arm can also be flailed around as a whip, or used to grab and throw its prey into walls, or even simply crush their skulls. Because of their resilient skin, Claire needs to resort to more powerful weapons, like the grenade launcher, explosive bow rounds, or the legendary Code Veronica knife, to deal with these horrific monsters. As Claire continues through the training center, she makes a shocking discovery. Inside the B.O.W. lab, she's attacked by a group of infant albinoids, mutated salamanders with the ability to manipulate electricity. As one of the albinoids escapes the lab, Claire does the same, but it wouldn't take long before that infant grows to a much larger threat. The albinoid takes only 10 hours to fully mature into an adult. They were designed to be dropped into enemy bases as infants, where they would then go undetected until matured. Once they reach adulthood though, they would need to spend most of their time in water in order to survive. At this point, their electrical abilities become much more lethal. Still, you have to wonder how effective this creature would be. In my opinion, this is the monster that could benefit from a Code Veronica remake the most. In the original, it's only a threat if you try to fight it in the water. You can simply stay outside the water pool though and dish out your best hits, or just jump in and grab the eagle plate before the albinoid shocks you, making the albinoid another optional boss that can just be ignored. Unfortunately, the next monster of Rockfort Island must be confronted head on. As Claire prepares to make her escape, she is stopped by Umbrella's ultimate weapon, the Tyrant. This isn't just any Tyrant. This is the T-078, a specialized mass-produced model cloned from the T-103 line that we saw in RE2. And much like Mr. X, this Tyrant could follow complex orders that would be impossible for more primitive B.O.W.s. It was personally delivered to the island by Hunk and given one simple order from Alexia Ashford: to kill Claire Redfield. Unlike the Mr. X-style Tyrant, the T-78 has been stripped of its massive power limiter code from the beginning, allowing it to mutate and adapt to its environment. Its claws have been blunted into heavy, battering ram-like protrusions, allowing it to relentlessly pursue and crush anything in its path. When Claire first encounters the Tyrant on the Palace Bridge, it acts as a moving death wall. There is little room for movement, and you cannot get around the Tyrant, so you're forced to fight him head on. And if you don't put him down fast enough, he will push you into the surrounding fire and kill you. This is the perfect time to use your grenade launcher. Anti-B.O.W. or acid rounds work wonders here. Of course, we always have that top tier knife if you're feeling brave. But the real challenge happens in the follow-up fight. in the cramped cargo hold of the transport plane that Claire is using to make her desperate escape from Rockfort Island. With nowhere to run and a ticking clock, Claire has to deal enough damage to stun the beast before using the plane's catapult system to launch it into the ocean. This fight has earned a reputation as a bit of a beginner's trap, forcing unsuspecting players that have used up too much of their best ammo to reset to a previous save or start the entire game over. Yours truly fell victim to this trap when I first played this as a kid. Of course, if you know about the knife, there is always a way to win this fight even without ammo. Either way, it's a high stakes battle where one wrong move means getting punched out of the plane. And despite its difficulty, it's one of the most exciting and memorable fights in the entire series. After escaping Rockfort Island, Claire ends up in a desolate Antarctic base. Unfortunately for her, several panicked survivors also fled Rockfort on similar cargo planes, unintentionally bringing the virus with them to the aircraft's preset destination, the Antarctic facility. As a result, the base's staff was overwhelmed, triggering a full-blown facility-wide outbreak. Among the zombies shuffling throughout the halls are some truly creepy and poisonous creatures. The biggest offender can be found fluttering around in this infamous hallway. The moths are notorious because they respawn and constantly spray poisonous powder, which is fatal to any human that inhales it. In Code Veronica, these moths were originally kept in the Antarctic base as a sort of guinea pig for prolonged exposure to the T-virus. Their larvae grow as parasites inside other living organisms, so they are constantly flying around the base in search of a suitable host for their eggs. If Claire is infected, the eggs will hatch after a set amount of time, doing a small bit of damage and leaving her poisoned. You can even find some zombies wandering the base that have been infected by the moth's parasites. The parasites will hatch from the zombies when approached and jump onto you, requiring you to deal with both threats at once. While annoying, these moths are easy enough to take down if you choose to shoot them. It's usually best to just avoid them at all costs, though you might be tempted to squish them if you're running low on blue herbs. And if there is one item that you need in the Antarctic base, it's blue herbs.
Said the spider to the fly, "How do you wish to die?"
After seeing the oversized, 8-legged freaks that the T-virus produced by chance in Raccoon City, Umbrella decided to develop and train their own version to be weaponized against their enemies. After only a few months of experimentation, they created a fast and deadly B.O.W. known as the Black Widow. Umbrella's scientists specifically chose the Widow because it possessed a much more potent venom compared to the tarantulas found in Raccoon City. These hairless spiders can grab and bite their prey with ease, and even launch their poisonous venom short distances. Originally, the Black Widows were planned to be distributed to all of Umbrella's branch companies, but one had a very different reaction to the T-virus and managed to escape into the facility, growing massive in size. The giant Black Widow is eventually discovered by Chris during his search for his sister Claire. This boss, again, is completely optional. Just be aware that its abdomen can explode, releasing tons of hungry baby spiders at your feet.
Chris, I'm sending some company to keep you entertained.
As Chris makes his way through Rockfort and the Antarctic base, he's discovered by Wesker, who decides to send some familiar creatures his way. However, these hunters weren't exactly the same ones that Chris had encountered back in the Spencer mansion. When Wesker betrayed Umbrella and sold their secrets to a rival organization, one of the first B.O.W.s they created with this data was the Hunter 2, an enhanced model of the Hunter, which was far more intelligent than Umbrella's original version, making it the perfect weapon for use in the HCF's invasion of Rockfort Island. Soldiers can actually direct the improved B.O.W. to a specific target using an automated surveillance device known as a seeker, or sometimes called a spotter. Once the target is discovered, the drone emits a special frequency that is then received by the device implanted on the left side of the hunter's head, guiding the creature to its prey in a matter of seconds. As if this wasn't enough, the rival company developed a variation of the Hunter 2 called the Sweeper. These light purple hunters were designed to sweep through previously attacked areas to mop up anything left. They attack just like a Hunter 2, but their claws have an added poisonous effect, which kills very quickly, ensuring that any prey that does escape would not make it far. So far, we've seen the nightmares Umbrella has conjured, but none of these creatures are as wicked as their creators.
The Ashford family is among the world's first and finest.
Deep in the sublevels of the Antarctic base, Claire discovers a secret that the Ashford family had tried to bury forever. The workers at the base whispered about the bone-chilling cries echoing through the darkness at night. Soon stories would spread about the immortal creature that lived beneath the facility, leading the workers to nickname him Nosferatu. In reality, the creature was Alexander Ashford. Alexander was the son of Edward Ashford, a co-founder of Umbrella. When Alexander took over as the head of the Ashford family, the influence of Oswald E. Spencer grew daily. Alexander never became a notable scientist for Umbrella, though he did discover the gene that regulated intellect. Obsessed with restoring his family's waning prestige, Alexander launched a new project, codenamed Veronica. He built a research lab in the South Pole and began an experiment using this discovery. He took DNA from the mummified body of Veronica Ashford, the original matriarch of the family, and then mixed it with his own. Next, he combined the DNA with the dangerous gene that enhances intelligence. What came out of his research were clones, a twin brother and sister with complementary powers. The older brother Alfred saw a small boost in intelligence, but was considered nothing more than a mistake. The sister, however, was the super genius that Alexander had been hoping for. Alexia Ashford would go on to become one of Umbrella's top researchers at the age of just 10 years old. However, her increased intellect only isolated her from other scholars, and certainly from the other children. Her only source of comfort was her brother Alfred. The two of them developed a loathing of ordinary people, and would soon consider their own father, Alexander, another one of the ignorant masses. Alexander grew to fear the children for their total disregard of humanity, and he was horrified to think of the prospect of the public learning how the twins came into existence. As such a thing would only tarnish his family's name further, he decided to hide the truth of this cloning experiment in a secret chamber in Umbrella's Antarctic base. 10 years later, Alfred would finally discover the truth of his existence. He was disgusted by the disturbing nature of the experiment. At the same time, he was bitter that his father hadn't created him with the same intelligence as Alexia. 1 month later, in a fit of bitter revenge, he and Alexia used Alexander as the first human test subject for the new virus that Alexia had been developing, the T. Veronica virus. A viral strain developed by combining the progenitor virus with the remnants of an ancient retrovirus Alexia had discovered in some queen ants. She had become completely obsessed with it. She hoped to create a virus that wouldn't impair cognitive functions. She loved the idea of the ants worshipping a queen and hoped to infect the world with the virus so that it may serve and adore her without question. However, the experiment on her father would prove to be a failure, and as a result of his body's inability to coexist with the virus, he turned into the uncontrollable monster that Claire discovers. He sprouted tentacles and exhaled poison that turned into a kind of deadly fog when it made contact with oxygen. Perhaps because he was too dangerous for further experimentation, the twins decided to seal him away as a final form of punishment.
I've got you now.
Though the test was a failure, it helped Alexia take the next steps in her research. After injecting herself with the virus, she entered a cryogenic sleep. Keeping the virus at such a low temperature allowed her body time to adapt to the virus. She estimated it would take 15 years. At the exact moment that Alfred met his end from Claire and Steve, Alexia emerged from her chamber with godlike powers. The virus was now living within her body in perfect harmony. We immediately see the first example of her new abilities when the mutated plant vines stopped Claire and Steve from escaping. The exact origins of these large plant vines is unknown, but they extend throughout the entire terminal, and were no doubt being controlled by Alexia.
What is that?
With her research complete and the two heroes captured, Alexia wanted revenge for her brother's death. She decided to show Steve what the T. Veronica virus would do if it couldn't form a symbiotic relationship with its host. The injection transformed him into a monster, much like it did her own father. And when Claire discovered the mutated Steve, he broke free from his restraints and began mindlessly chasing her with an axe. One of Alexia's tentacle pods grabbed Claire, holding her still for Steve to finish the job. However, in a final moment of humanity, Steve managed to resist Alexia's influence and severed the pod to free Claire instead. Alexia impaled Burnside as a result of his disobedience, and he reverted back to his human appearance before succumbing to his injuries.
Oh, Steve.
When Alexia is confronted by Wesker, she ascends to godhood and gifts us with the best transformation scene in the entire series. This form of Alexia is hauntingly human, but her blood now bursts into flames upon contact with the air. She walks with pure confidence, cutting off any potential escape route with walls of fire. For Chris, this is a battle of precision, keeping his distance while dealing with her flame-trailing blood and poison attacks. If she manages to grab you, it's an instant death. When Chris pushes Alexia to the brink of defeat, she sheds her humanity completely. As Alexia Ashford changed into her second form, the tentacle pod assisted her mutation by supplying the additional biomass required to become larger. The result is a disgusting, bioorganic hive. Her lower body becomes a pulsating egg sac that continuously births parasites and lashing tentacles. There isn't much strategy to this fight, just a pure test of firepower and resource management. It's honestly one of the worst designed boss fights in the entire series, and could be an easy contender for best glow-up when we finally see it in the remake. Once her giant reproductive abdomen is destroyed, Alexia breaks off from the stationary hive and becomes a flying insect, somewhat resembling an ant mixed with a dragonfly. The only remaining part of her that looks human is her face, which is now steeped in sadness, perhaps at the result of what she has become. She attacks by spreading her blood and letting it burst into flames. The big difference between this and her second form is that she is now nearly indestructible. To defeat her, Chris must use the linear launcher, a special failsafe weapon that Alexander had created just in case Alexia had ever followed through with their plans for releasing T. Veronica into the world.
taken.
A star's knife.
Chris and Claire escape the base and live to fight another day. But the nightmare isn't over. With Alexia finally defeated, Wesker managed to secure C. Burnside's body to preserve the T. Veronica virus. Though her plans were never fully realized, Alexia's research would go further and continue to haunt the world. To learn more about the rivalry between Wesker and Alexia, check out this video. Let me know where you rank Code Veronica's enemies in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.